Ready when you are, Coach.
All right. Thanks, Charlie. As got done with the team today, as we were getting rolling with Tell the Truth Monday, I shared with them, I thought last night's game showed what brotherhood looks like. And I never wanted that to be a cliche. And perhaps the best example that I saw today was Marcus talking to Jaden during a timeout in overtime. And that conversation is what makes Marcus special, and that also makes our team special. I think that conversation could have been had at a number of positions, but I thought that was indicative of what brotherhood looks like in the heat of it, and support. And any time I get a chance to talk about Marcus, their quarterback room, what it means, and who those guys are, I'm going to do it. So all that said, let's get rocking with the day with you guys.
Hey, Dan, was there besides what you just kind of said, but did you allow yourself a moment to just kind of fully soak it in? And what was something else that maybe stood out to you about last night that will always stick with you besides the Marcus?
Yeah, I think I read where Jaden's thrown 5 touchdown passes in the final 30 seconds of the game. And I felt all those. Last night included. I love when there's these moments on fourth downs, John, that can really, extend drives and make a play. And it may not be the one that everybody remembers, but Jeremy McNichols one on fourth down to extend on a catch to go. If that doesn't take place, it's hard to continue the drive and get going. So those are the ones that I think about a lot. And a player like Jeremy, one of our glue guys here, what he stands for, the way he can play. And in those moments, man, I love when those happen.
And when was the last time that you were either surprised or amazed by something Jaden did?
That's a good question. Certainly not surprised, but definitely the latter, amazed. And it's probably the plays where, and I told Raheem this after the game, I'd given him a hug and I said, man, there's some plays that 5 does, you can't put it on a card and practice it. And it's his ability to extend plays, John, to scramble, remain a passer. He did one to Zach, for a long one, used his legs to get out and scramble for a first down. Those are plays, I would say, that amaze me, because there's a play that goes in the huddle, and then there's another play at the result of that, and they are not the same play.
Hi, Dan. I want to go back to a couple of weeks ago when Zach Ertz was dealing with the shoulder and coming off the concussion. What did you see from him as he really rehabbed to make it through that? I know I don't know that anybody's quite right at this point in the season, but it seemed like he was still dealing with stuff when he went in and kept going.
It was a hard week. I think it was the Philadelphia week, if I'm not mistaken, and concussion and shoulder and collarbone and all of that. And I can remember having a conversation in the weight room. I could feel it was weighing on him. I said, man, just make it through the workout today. We'll go into tomorrow. And so I didn't want him to even think about the game yet. He didn't know if he could play, where he was, the shoulder, all of that. And I said, man, don't even worry about that. Just let's throw a good day today. And I think for him, that kind of support, we had talked about that. Later he had told me that he really appreciated that. Just knowing if he's able to, he will. But, man, no stress about the game today. It's Wednesday, man. Just see if you can get yourself right and going. And sure enough, as the week went on and he got closer to the game, he felt more like himself to go. But he's had a remarkable season, Nikki, and he's done some really cool things with the team, with Jaden, leading on and off the field, the tight end room. He's brought a lot to us. And there was a lot of doubt in terms of where he was last offseason. The 2023 season didn't go, quite like he would have wanted. But I think it shows the resilience of who he is, what he stands for, and he's had a huge impact here.
And along those lines, you mentioned the injuries he's had over the last couple seasons. Obviously knew what kind of player he was in his prime. But what were sort of your expectations when you guys brought him in here?
I was planning on third down, red zone, some 2-minute things to go. where I thought, let's start from there and see where it takes us. But I didn't have expectations past that, Nick. I thought, I know he knows how to play. This guy's been fantastic down the red zone for his entire career. I've coached against him. So I thought, let's start from there. And if that worked out, we'd expand it. And sure enough, the work that he put in during the offseason, it just expanded. And he doesn't play every snap, but he played more than I would have thought going in. And that's, I think, a real tribute to him and the work that he did to get ready.
Ben?
Hey, Dan. Obviously, you've got one more game here to go before the playoffs. There's something in play with regards to the seeding. When do you kind of discuss, if there's a discussion to have in your mind, about how you approach that in terms of guys you use? You obviously got a few guys that are banged up right now.
Yeah, we're going to go after as hard as we can, Ben. I think the seeding portion of this is really important, and that's what we discussed as a team. We thought last night the vibe was awesome at the game. We thought we left some plays out there, and so for us, that leveling up as we're heading into this week with Dallas would be really important. But we recognize, having a 6 seed and going into the playoffs with that is a good thing, and so we're going to fight like hell to keep that.
And I'm sure you'll tell us later in the week, we'll hear about Marshawn's situation status. Just curious, what do you think of the cornerback play without him?
Yeah, so he had done some of the rehab running today, and then as we get through, it'll be a lighter start to Wednesday. So I'll have a better sense as I get through Wednesday and Thursday in terms of availability and just kind of hitting all the markers at the position that we talked about. All at lots of spots, I felt there were good ones, but it was up and down. I thought the penalties really knocked us out, not just at cornerback, but all over. To have a almost 3-1 margin, Ben, I thought was really hard, on us. So those are the ones, man, like we got to be able to fight our way through and not have some of those fouls.
Sam?
Moment with Jaden in his locker last night after the press conference. What was your message to him there? What was that like?
Well, first I just told him I'm proud of him. Honestly, it was fantastic overtime, and it just, you could feel those moments for him. You've heard us talk about it, and so I told him I was proud of him, man. It was a legitimate heavy hitter moment, man, as a leader and a player, and he has firmly established his ability into that spot, and so that was all. Just sharing my appreciation for what he does and how he does it.
In the second half, obviously, he ran more. Was that a concerted effort? Did you guys talk about that at halftime, or was that more his mindset just kind of making the plays as they came?
Yeah, it was more just the mindset. It wasn't a concerted effort to get him more involved in the run game. In fact, we've been working hard, and I think he's been improving on remaining a passer. The one to Zach was certainly one that did that. But there were times where, all right, I'm taking off and I'm going to get the first and then some. But over the last couple of weeks, I have felt that speed back, Sam. And, when he got injured, that was something that we did less of, or he did less of. And so to see him, in every way, using his legs, remaining a passer, ripping the ball down the field, I mean, he made some fantastic throws, and I thought OZ played a fantastic game. The one that he threw to him that didn't convert, that was a big-time rip. And those are the ones that you saw to Jamison last week. So doing it with his legs, with his arm, he's really hitting his stride right now.
Thank you.
David Aldridge?
Hey, Dan. How did you think Lucas and Trent held up at right tackle, and also how Dieter played at center after Tyler went out?
Yeah, I thought it showed some resilience, honestly, David, to going in without Wiley there. Luke had moved over to go, and in the pass protection side, I felt like he had matched up like we want. So when he got injured, and then Trent coming in to go, I think Trent made it end up into over 20 plays. I think it was somewhere near 85 or so that we played. So those guys I have a lot of trust in. They've played a lot, Michael as well. And so you never like to see these guys get banged up where they're out, whether it's for a short time or the whole time. But, at the end, I thought, seeing them going through, other than the fouls, David, I thought that was the thing that really set us back in this game. But for Trent and for Luke and for Mike, I thought, coming in, I was pleased with what I saw.
What did you think of the 3 calls on Cosme.
Yeah, it's an interesting technique, and so it'll be hard for me. We can do it when you're in person, but when you have somebody here, you try to sometimes knock their hands straight down. So I'm locked up with them, and you can, almost turn your wrists and your hands over to knock them down. And I could see where a umpire who would be behind may see if somebody was standing behind me right now and I did that, you could see them thinking that was snatching somebody down. So I think that's a technique that some offensive linemen use, we've used, but I think we'll have to look at that and say, okay, if that's getting called from a person that's behind you, that makes a valid point to me to say, hey, this is a technique. If you're going to stay locked up, you stay locked up and you don't reset your hands. So that's what I saw, because I can see the referee being behind and not knowing how that might happen. So that's my thoughts on it.
Natalie?
Hey, Dan. How this team has won in close situations this year is one impressive in itself, but what can be said about how quickly the team has learned to win this season and how beneficial that can be for a team now heading into the playoffs? Yeah,
we talked maybe about 4 or 5 weeks ago about December football and coming out of the bye, being in a season of close games, and we thought as the calendar turns, that's what happens. Last night, I've got a lot of respect for Atlanta, players they have. This is a good team, and so we thought they'd come back to the wall ready to fight, and that's exactly what happened. So we were anticipating, honestly, a close game. We just were, and we're getting more comfortable in those spots. Maybe early on I felt the roller coaster ride more, but over, I'd say, the last 2 or 3 weeks, I felt us maybe make a shift from hoping or knowing, wanting to win to knowing you're going to. And I think, quite honestly, Five has a big part of that, because he makes some plays that the average person doesn't. But there's also a lot of belief in their teammates. And that's, to me, one of the things that I love about coaching these guys is that their belief in one another stands out. And those are the things that you need in those moments, to throw it to Jeremy on the check down, to get to the first down, to give the ball to Chris to go get the score. And that, to me, is a real signal of what winning football looks like. It's not one person that does it. There's a whole crew here that can get down.
And I know you guys stay true to your 24-hour rule, but just based on, what this team has been able to build this year, do you celebrate this one just a little bit more, maybe like 30 hours this time around?
I wish, but the more that you win, the more fun they become. And, as we're going into it for this week, that's all we go for, man. We just try to stay true to that process for that week. And it's a really important one that we go through. So today, about telling the truth, an important one, because today we do kind of clear it, and then we get into the next steps into tomorrow. But we have a lot of fun as we go through that. There's some bowl game matchups, so we put some old college pictures up of people, and we have a laugh about that. I think there was Michigan and Alabama and Boise and Penn State, so we had some fun seeing some old pictures. But past that, we do let it clear, and then we got a lot to work on. And so we'll, work really hard, over the next, 4 or 5 days leading up to the game at Dallas to improve upon. So that's where we turn to now.
Andy?
Hey, Coach. My first question for you, what did you see when you went back and looked at the film at the line of scrimmage? How do you think your team did?
I thought it was a tale of two halves, Candy, honestly. I really did. In the first half, I didn't think we got a lot of cracks at it. I loved the way that we started, honestly. I talked about starting fast. I had even used some examples of some fights from back in the old days of my era to show what starting fast would look like. And I was pleased with that. We got an interception, and we made them pay to go score a touchdown after that. And so that was one thing that we wanted to do, knowing that, we got to bring the fight early. So I was pleased with that. As the second half went, that's where I thought we really, started to make our move. Long drives on offense, get a quick stop on defense to give it back to the offense. So I don't know the total number of plays, but it might have been a 12 or 15 play drive. Candy, then another one to go. And so when those possessions can get extended, we converted on some fourth downs. We kept their defense out on the field. So I thought that's why it was a tale of two halves, certainly with the line of scrimmage.
And a couple of weeks ago, I asked you about the tackling margin, and you used Jeremy Chin as an example
Yep.
of a tackle. He had another one yesterday. So what can you say about Jeremy Chin and what he brings to this defense?
Yes, and I was pleased with us again as you keep working your fundamentals as you're going. The tackling is so important, and so for us to win the tackling margin again last night, that was a really big deal because it encompasses special teams, and there's a lot of hidden yardage that would take place on a catch and run play, where as opposed to the hit that happens and it ends right there, compared to the missed tackle that gets extended. But Jeremy is one of our best tacklers. I thought he and Quinn at that safety position, they're involved. We put him down by the line of scrimmage a lot, and I love that we're doing it safely as well. And so the hit that Jeremy had on the receiver, we call it the strike zone, from the shoulders down to the knees. And so that's important too, to make sure that we're modeling, for all the younger players that are watching Candy, that show you can play tough as hell, but it can be really physical.
Thank you.
Got it.
Hey, Coach. In talking to the players yesterday, they talk about finishing strong. In finishing strong and looking at this team as far as what you talked about, still needing to work on things, what did you see most that still needs to be worked on moving forward?
The penalties were the thing that jumped out to me, Donna, for sure on one. And most of those we can correct, that whether we aligned offsides on a field goal block or a certain type, of technique that was holding or not. And then always, it's the communication that happens pre-snap and post-snap. And the best defenses that talk ahead of the call, they're usually a step ahead. And same thing offensively, watching for this blitz, looking for this stunt. And so those are the things that we'll continue to work hard on. It doesn't just happen in the meeting room. You have to transfer that out onto the field at practice, doing the things, because if it's just in a meeting room setting, we can all do that together. But man, when it happens fast, that's why I think those practice reps are so important, because it's not just the throw and the catch, but it's all the communication that goes with it.
And also, in talking to the players last night, you could tell that they pretty much left everything on the field, or
Yes.
most of everything on the field, because they were tired, and you could tell that. But did you see something even different that you haven't seen before from the players in this particular game?
You're right about, I felt like they emptied the tank. I really did. And when it went into the overtime period and, we had a chance to possess the ball, you could feel an energy take place there to say, hey, this is a shot, and you have to go capitalize on that. And so when you do, at the end, you capitalize on it, and you don't miss that chance, there's a really strong connection and feeling that goes with that. And so you can have the same emotion when you miss them, but you should also recognize when they're there. And although it didn't go like we wanted on some spots, there were a lot of guys, Donna, that stepped up in this game, with some others being out. And I always have, regard and respect for those that do that. And so in this game, I showed they really showed like they're about it for one another.
Thanks, Coach.
You got it.
Last one.
Yeah, Jaden was asked a lot on his birthday about kind of reflecting on the past year. I wonder if you allowed yourself to think about your last year, your last game in Dallas, and kind of how far you've come as a coach with this organization, and kind of how you've grown as a coach and this team has grown.
If I would reflect on that, man, I said I've honestly had a blast, coaching this team, because we've been working hard on our identity, and to have a group that connected like they are, that's a big deal, because not every team has that. And so for me to get to see a front row seat at that journey and be along on that ride with them, I've got a lot of gratitude for it. So I would say probably the two things that come up for me are joy, because I've wanted to make sure the circumstances don't determine that. Like I'm absolutely, pumped to be here on the best of days and the hardest of days. And I also have a lot of gratitude for what this team is and what they stand for. So to me, those would be the two things, looking back on it.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
All right. You guys have a good one. We'll see you Wednesday. Happy New Year.
Thanks, you too.
What time am I seeing you?
Normal time.
All right.
Yep.
I'll be hustling. I got it. Good job.
All right. We'll be ready to rock.